On Tuesday the 4th of March 2025, I decided to travel up the Cumbrian coast to Millom. Instead of taking the train, however, I would be travelling by bus, aboard the rare Service 7 from Barrow. The 7 used to be operated some years ago, until Stagecoach withdrew the service due to low patronage. The service has seen a revival, with 3 buses a day in each direction. An added benefit of the 7's revival is that Millom now also has its own local service provided between there and Haverrig in the form of the M1. At the time of my journey, the vehicle type in use was an M850 Optare Solo. The bus I had was 47137 PX54 EPY. 20 of this vehicle's type were built and introduced to Stagecoach in December 2004. 18 were delivered to Barrow and 2 to Preston, although the Preston vehicles would later be transferred to Barrow to join the rest of their family a few years later, replacing the very last of the step entrance Mercedes-Benz 709Ds. Following the recent introduction of 7 new switch solos, a rewrite of driver rosters, and the cascade of vehicles from other depots, the 20-strong fleet of PX54s has since, at the time of writing, been whittled down to just 3. They are very much on borrowed time, with 5 Enviro 200s from Chesterfield Depot being sent in to replace them. I opted to travel on the 9:05 departure from Barrow Town Hall, and we joined the bus from the next stop down the road at Ramsden Square. I should also point out that the bus was being driven by a friend of ours, Kevin Lightfoot. Making its way out of Barrow, the bus passes the Hindpool Retail Park and cuts through the Hollywood Retail Park to join up with the A590 on the one-way Ironworks Road. Yeah. The bus diverts briefly here to make a quick U-turn in the Asda car park before joining the 590 once more. After a pause at a set of temporary traffic lights outside the bus depot, we start making our way out of town.
Alright, okay, yeah. Loads of slack, very nice.
Along the way, we pass the Kimberley-Clark paper mill. It sits alongside the BAE shipyard as one of the town's biggest employers. The bus comes to a longer pause at a second set of temporary lights. Fortunately, there is plenty of slack in the timetable, so Kevin can relax and take his time. At the top of the hill, we divert off the A590 at the Ellis Scales roundabout and onto the A595. Just before we reach Askam, we come off the A595 and onto Lots Road, where we cross over the Cumbrian coastline. The road also narrows here, and we have to negotiate passing a transit van. The bus then takes a course onto New Road and then down Duke Street, before crossing over the railway line once again at Askam Station. Askam's history dates right back to 1850, when iron ore deposits were discovered in the area by Henry Schneider. Following the expansion of housing, Askam subsequently became twinned with the neighbouring village of Ireliffe. Ireliffe is the older of the two villages, with its history stretching right back to medieval times. After crossing over the level crossing, we join back up with VA 595 and climb out of Askam. Sitting on the Solo's balcony offers some superb views of the Duddon estuary and the rolling hills in the background. Where the road narrows again, Kevin stops to allow other vehicles to pass. Here we pass through the next major settlement of Barrow-in-Furness. Kirkby is a collection of 6 different hamlets, namely Soutergate, Wall End, Beckside, Sandside, Marshside and Chapels. The name Kirkby was used by the Furness Railway Company during the construction of the Cumbrian coastline, and was the name they gave the station which serves these hamlets. At this point, BA 595 narrows once more to thread a narrow path past the farmyard through to Griesbeck. It is a notorious pinch point. A new diversion is currently under construction, and this section is expected to become a private road. find ourselves running alongside the Cumbrian coastline once again as we pass Foxfield Station. At one time, Foxfield was a junction station where the line to Coniston branched off. It closed to all traffic in 1962. The seats on the solos are of the standard Stagecoach bucket. I find these to provide excellent comfort, and the legroom on the front balcony seat isn't too bad either. I also found the bus to be exceptionally clean. A number of years ago, the PX-54 Solos were named after various ships and submarines that were built in the Barrow shipyard. Although having long since been denamed, EPY still carries its name poster on the back wall. It's also the only Barrow Solo to proudly show the Optare brand on the back of a vehicle. We divert off the A595 once more and drop down into Broughton. Here we pick up a passenger. Kevin told me that the 905 was one of the quietest runs. In fact, I was the only passenger on the bus until this point. Spoiler warning, we don't pick up any more. Dating from around the 11th century, the original settlement grew to become a local market town for both fishing and agriculture. Wool was also particularly important for the town's development. In 1990, the A595, which used to run through the town, was diverted to help retain the rural feel. Broughton was also a stop on the old Coniston branch. Having exited Broughton, we joined the A595 one more time. Here we pause at traffic lights which control entry onto the narrow Dudden Bridge, where it seems this road sign has taken a massive clout. Just after Chapel Row, we turn off the 595 and onto the A5093 into Millom. And after crossing over the Cumbrian coastline one more time at Millom, the bus terminates in the town centre. We take some time to admire this statue that is dedicated to the town's mining heritage. The first shafts were sunk at Hodbarrow in the 1850s, and by 1881 there were 7 pits operated by the Hodbarrow Mining Company. The Millom and Askam Iron Company built Millom Ironworks, and the first furnaces were completed in 1866. The opening of the ironworks led to the building of the new town of Millom. Now, as the next 7 back to Barrow wasn't until 1352, I decided to come back by train. I had planned to catch the 1108 from Carlisle. However, the 1008 was running 38 minutes late due to a delayed freight train. This meant that I was able to get back into Barrow a little earlier than scheduled. I was going to make a separate video of this, however, unfortunately, it seemed that the Class 156 I-Court hadn't been through the train wash, so the windows were quite dirty. I'm sure that you'll agree that this doesn't make for great viewing. Another thing of note is that the seat back in front of me lacked its tray table, most likely having been pried off by vandals. Apart from that though, I had a nice journey overall. Undoubtedly the bus portion was the highlight. With the exception of a couple of squeals, EPY performed rather well on its rural service, and Kevin drove a bus with complete professionalism. After gracing Barrow streets for 20 years of frontline service, the Solos have certainly earned their retirement. If you would like to follow me and stay up to date with the videos that I post, please feel free to press the subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, pressing the like button would be greatly appreciated. If you would like to support the channel further, you may tip me on Ko-fi or by pressing YouTube's super thanks button. As always, thank you again for your viewership and take care.